Good day everyone. For this video presentation, we will tackle about the global demography and the contemporary world. At the end of this lesson, students should be able to identify the different international issues and trends in global population, synthesize the concept of globalization and relations to demography and population, and explain the theory of demographic transition and its effects on global population. These are the keywords of our topic for today. First, global demography, population, urbanization, migration, life expectancy, fertility rate, theory of population growth and decline, rural and urban families, and last, the perils of overpopulation. I know that you are asking, what is demography? The term demography is the combination of two Greek words which is demo and graphy. Demo means the people. Graphy refers to draw or to write. So demography is concerned about writing concerning the people. Demography of statistics that shows how the makeup of the human population is changing, such as births, deaths, income, and illness incidents. So now, what is the global demography? Global demography is the study of the worldwide population rather than the population of specific country, region, or city. It is useful because it provides the big picture of the entire human population without the influence from local economic, cultural, or geographic factors. It provides data about the past, present, and future of human society as a whole. So the global demography, it provides us the entire data of how many people in this world.
Today, the world's population is more than 3 times larger than it was in the mid-20th century. The global human population will reach 8.0 billion in mid-November 2022 from an estimated 2.5 billion in 1950, adding 1 billion people since 2010 and 2 billion since 1998.
Okay, let's talk about population in demography. The population is the whole number of people or inhabitants in country or regions. The total of individuals occupying an area or making up a whole. The total of particles or a particular energy level. Also, population is defined as a whole nation present in or temporarily absent from a country and alliance permanently settled in a country. This indicator shows the number of people that usually live an area. Growth rates are the annual changes in populations resulting from births, deaths, and net migration during a year. You may think and ask what is the differences between demography and population. Okay, so the population is study concerned with the human beings, while demography is the statistical study of living population and subpopulations. It can vary of general science that can be applied to any kinds of dynamic living populations, that is, that one changes over time or space. I will give you a fact about growing population globally. Did you know that today, Tuesday, November 15, 2022, the United Nations estimate that the global human population would reach the symbolic level of 8 billion. Representative from the Commissions on Population and Development of POPCOM and nurses welcome baby Venice as the symbolic 8 billion baby. Urbanization in demography. Urbanization refers to the population shift from rural to urban areas, the corresponding decrease in proportion of people living in rural areas, and the ways in which societies adapt to these changes. So what is the difference between rural and urban? So the rural area or countryside in a geographic area that is located outside towns and cities. Cities, towns, and suburbs are classified as urban areas. Typically, urban areas have high population density and rural areas have low population density. So how does the urbanization affect in demography? Urbanization can increase population density by restricting animals' movement, increasing available forage, or decreasing competitions by reducing the population size or competitors.
Immigration. Immigration is a movement of the people from one place to another with intentions of setting permanently or temporarily at new location. And immigration is the relocation or process of people leaving one country to another. What are the differences between them? So, in immigrates means to leave one's country to live in another country and live permanently, while the migrate is to move like birds in the winter. And what are the examples between them, the immigration and immigration? They immigrate, for example, people might say they immigrate to the United States, which where they now have permanent residence, but they immigrate from Spain.
Now I will be discussing life expectancy. Life expectancy is a expectation of a life at a given age is the average number of years within within a person of that age may expect to live. According to the mortality pattern prevalent in that country, life expectancy of the world population. Life expectancy at birth data based on the latest United Nations populations division estimates for females there are 75.6 years life expectancy at birth and for males there are 70.8 years life expectancy at birth. Therefore, there are there are total of 73.2 years life expectancy at birth, both sexes combined. The current the current life expectancy for world in 2022 is 72.98 years, a 0.24% increase from 2021.
Ma'am, our topic is the fertility rate. Fertility rate is a major determinant of population growth rate. Fertility rate is the average number of children women would bear if they survive to the end of reproductive life.
For now, let's talk about the theories of population's growth and decline. According to Malthusian's theory, three factors would control human populations that exceeded the Earth's carrying capacity or how many people can live in a given area considering the amount of available resources. Malthus identified this factor as war, famine, and disease. Malthus 1798. Malthusians that populations was growing faster than the amount of resources we could produce. This suggested that at some point populations would outgrow resources. A catastrophe such as war, famine, or disease would then out the populations which would return to balance again.
This theory links population's growth to the level of technological development across three stages of social evolutions. In the first stage, coinciding with pre-industrial societies, the birth rate and death rate are both high. The birth rate is high because of the lack of contraceptions and the several other reasons cited earlier for high fertility rates, and the death rate in high because of disease, poor nutrition, lack of modern medicines, and other problems.
This model predicts that as a country develops high birth rates and high death rates will fall. This model predicts that countries will pass through periods of industrializations and urbanizations on the way to reduce birth-death rates. The five stages. Stage 1 is characterized by high birth rate and high fluctuating death rates resulting in small populations growth. Stage 2, characterized by improved healthcare, sanitation, and increased food supplies, leading to a rapid fall in a death rate. Birth rates are still high, so there is a rapid increase in population's numbers. Stage 3, characterized by a decreased growth rate of a population's birth rates begin to fall. Stage 4, characterized by the completion of the transitions to a low growth rate with low birth and death rates. The birth rates may fluctuate in special circumstances, such as in the post-war baby boom. Stage 5, characterized by a lower birth than the death rate. This is happening in some European countries and in Japan. It is not known if this trend will extend to other regions.
So at this point, let's talk about rural and urban families. When we say rural, this refers to countryside or an area that has only few homes and other buildings, while urban refers to towns or cities. So families that belong to the rural community welcome an extra hand to help in crop cultivation, particularly during the planting and harvesting seasons. Poorer districts tend to have families with more children because of their small business depends on how many of their members can be hawking their wares on the street. This means that in rural families, the more children, the better it will be for the farm or the small by the street corner enterprises. The rural families also view multiple children and large kinship networks as critical investments where children, for example, will be taking over of their family or agricultural business. On the other hand, urban families may not have the same kinship network with rural families because urbanized, educated, and professional families with two incomes desire just one or two child per children. These families have their insights on long-term savings plan. They set aside part of their incomes for their retirement, healthcare, and the future education of their child or children. This type of family also tend to have more time or spend time with their respective works than staying at home or raising a child. They are most likely busy with their professions. As we can see, the two families or communities really differ from each other as well as their family life. So, which will be the one to determine the economic and social policies that countries craft regarding their respective populations. So, countries in the less developed regions of the world that rely on agriculture tend to maintain high levels of population growth. So, during the year 1980, United Nations report on urban and rural population growth states that these areas contain 85% of the world's rural population in 1975 and are projected to contain 90% by the end of 20th century, and since then, global agriculturist population declined. But despite of this, population continues to grow numerically, which is affected by the following. So there are four factors. First is the urban population have grown, not necessarily because families are having more children, but rather there are combination of the natural outcome of significant migration to the cities by people seeking work in the more modern sectors of society, where people from rural areas are being attracted to go to developing cities where industries and business are found. The next one is the international migration. And then countries welcome immigrants as they offset the debilitating effects of an aging population, but are also perceived as threats to the job market because first is they compete against citizens per job, and the second one is they are open to receiving lower wages. And the last factor is the voters' pressure.
So now we are down to our next topics, which are the good news of high population and the perils of overpopulation. The good news of high population. First is the better economy. People in rural areas are hoped to have more children in the first place. More kids means there will be more hands to help in the farm. Number two, efficient utilization of resources, especially in urban areas. The denser the population, the more concentrated it is in one particular area, and the efficient the public transportation is, the lessen the carbon footprint. Number three is the medical, agriculture, and industrial growth. This is owing to the fact that there would be more brains added to our think tank, which would then contribute to more innovation in science and technology. And the last one is the better labor force. There would be good working age population, and of course, there would be greater investment in capital formation. We are done with the good news of high population. Now we moved on to the perils of overpopulation. Number one, shortage of food and land. Many scientists believe that we have already exceeded the maximum carrying capacity of the Earth. Number two, environmental problems. The Earth has not gotten any bigger. We all need the Earth's resources to survive. Number three, problem of unemployment. Number four, poverty and low standard living. There are millions of people around the world who are dying of hunger, diseases, and malnutrition. Number five, inflation. Number six, conflict and war. Sooner or later, when resources run out, there is a possibility of conflict and war to happen. In conclusion, from the topics that have been discussed in this video, we conclude that the world and most countries are going through a period of unprecedentedly rapid demographic change. The most obvious example of this change is the huge expansion of human numbers. 4 billion have been added since 1950. Other demographic processes are also experiencing extraordinary change. Women are having fewer births and LEs have risen to highs. Past trends in fertility and or mortality have led to very young population in high fertility countries in the south and to increasingly older populations in the north. Still, other important demographic changes which were not reviewed here include rapid urbanization, international migration, and changes in family and household structure.